The grand hall of Aurelian Prime had never been so silent. Golden pillars stretched toward a domed ceiling painted with the victories of the royal bloodline. Alien nobles stood in layered robes of silver and violet, their jeweled collars glowing faintly under the chandeliers. At the center, elevated above them all, sat Princess Queen Elindra Valor, ruler of the most dominant empire in 3 galaxies. Before her stood a single human, Commander Elias Ward of Earth, unarmed, unbowed. The human race had only recently joined the interstellar stage. Compared to the ancient Aurelian Empire, humanity was primitive, loud, emotional, fragile. At least that's what everyone believed. You understand your position? Elindra's voice echoed across the hall, calm and edged with royal authority. Your colony world orbits within our territory. Your fleets are insignificant. Your people survive because I allow it. Murmurs of agreement rippled through the court. Elias didn't kneel. Protocol demanded submission. Every species did it. Some trembled. Some cried. A few fainted. Humans were unpredictable. I understand perfectly, Elias replied evenly. Gasps spread across the nobles. He had not used the royal address. Elindra's emerald eyes narrowed slightly. Then kneel. Pledge loyalty. Accept vassal status, and your species will prosper. Silence. Every alien in the chamber expected the same outcome as always. The lesser species would break. Elias looked around the hall, at the towering guards, the polished floors, the proud banners displaying centuries of conquest. Then he looked back at the queen. No. The word struck the chamber like a plasma blast. A noble actually stumbled backward. Elindra leaned forward slightly. Explain. You expect us to beg for survival? Elias said calmly. But humans didn't claw our way out of extinction-level wars. Planetary collapse and near self-destruction just to kneel to someone else. A guard stepped forward, weapon humming. Elindra raised her hand. The guard froze. You would choose extinction? She asked. Elias smiled faintly. No, we would choose freedom. The queen studied him. There was no trembling in his voice. No fear sent, no submissive posture, only certainty. You misunderstand your weakness, she said coldly. And you misunderstand our strength, he replied. He reached into his coat. Several weapons locked onto him instantly. Instead of a weapon, he removed a small metallic badge, the emblem of the United Earth Alliance, and placed it gently on the polished floor. We decline your offer. Then he turned his back to the most powerful ruler in 3 galaxies and walked away. No one stopped him. For the first time in recorded Aurelian history, someone had refused the crown, and Princess Queen Elindra felt something she had not experienced in centuries. Not anger, curiosity. The moment the human left the grand hall, the silence shattered. They must be annihilated, Lord Varex hissed, his elongated fingers tightening around his ceremonial staff. Such defiance cannot stand. Murmurs of outrage filled the chamber. Across centuries, dozens of civilizations had knelt before Aurelian power. Some willingly, some not. But none had ever walked away. None. Princess Queen Elindra did not rise from her throne. Seal the chamber, she commanded softly. The doors closed with a thunderous echo. He insulted the crown, another noble spat. Let the human colony burn as an example. Elindra's emerald eyes flickered toward the grand window overlooking the orbiting fleets of Aurelian warships. Thousands of vessels shimmered in perfect formation. Power, absolute and unquestioned. Yet the image of the human's steady gaze replayed in her mind. No fear, no desperation, only certainty. Deploy scouts to their outer system, she ordered. Gasps filled the hall. Your Majesty, Lord Varex protested. Why scout so? Our armada alone could... Do as I command. Her voice did not rise. It did not need to. 3 cycles later, Aurelian scout ships exited slipspace, near the edge of the Sol frontier. Humanity's claimed territory. They expected disorganization, panic, primitive defense platforms. What they found instead made them hesitate. Orbital rings, massive and heavily shielded, rotated around Earth's neighboring colonies. Defense satellites moved in synchronized patterns. Warships, sleek and compact, held silent positions like predators waiting in tall grass. The scouts sent data back immediately. Back on Aurelian Prime, Elindra watched the projections in silence. They hid this, Lord Varex whispered. No. Elindra corrected quietly. We never looked. More data streamed in. Human vessels were smaller than Aurelian battleships, but faster. Their weapon signatures showed unstable energy patterns. Experimental but devastating. Swarm tactics, adaptive shielding, autonomous drones, unorthodox, dangerous. One scout ship attempted to move closer. Within seconds, a human cruiser appeared beside it, having masked its energy signature entirely. A calm transmission followed. You are within restricted territory. State your purpose. The tone was polite. Professional. Confident. The scout withdrew. Elindra folded her hands. They were preparing, she murmured. For war? Virex asked. For independence. Hours later, a message arrived from Earth. Not a plea, not an apology, a formal diplomatic transmission. Commander Elias Ward appeared on the projection once more. We respect your power, he said evenly. But humanity will never submit. We propose mutual sovereignty, trade, cooperation, equal standing. Equal? Virex snarled. Elindra raised her hand for silence. You presume much, she said to the hologram. Elias met her gaze again, unwavering. No, Your Majesty. We simply refuse to presume less. The transmission ended. The court erupted in outrage, but Elindra remained still. For centuries, the Empire had expanded because others feared them, but humans did not, and that made them unpredictable, dangerous, interesting. For the first time, the Princess Queen considered a possibility no Aurelian ruler ever had. What if humanity was not prey, but a rival? The first shot was not fired by humanity. It was fired by pride. Lord Virex could not tolerate the insult any longer. Without the Queen's formal declaration, he mobilized a strike fleet, 20 Aurelian warships, each capable of reducing continents to ash. They will learn, he declared, that defiance has consequences. Princess, Queen Elindra was informed only after the fleet had already entered slip space. For the first time in centuries, she was furious. The Aurelian strike fleet exited near the outer edge of the Sol frontier. Their scanners immediately detected human defense satellites locking on. Aurelian Commander Threx sneered. Primitive toys. He ordered the first barrage. Beams of concentrated stellar energy tore through space and hit nothing. The satellites moved, not randomly, strategically. Within seconds, human cruisers decloaked. Behind the Aurelian formation, smaller, faster, their hulls shimmered with adaptive shielding. Then the humans responded, not with overwhelming force, with precision. And an Aurelian battleship lost engines. Impossible, Commander Threx roared. Then a calm human voice transmitted across all frequencies. You entered sovereign territory without declaration. Withdraw immediately. It was Elias, watching from a command deck orbiting Mars. The Aurelians fired again, this time in desperation. Human ships split formation, drawing fire away from vulnerable colonies. One cruiser took a direct hit. Instead of exploding, it redirected the energy through experimental plasma channels and fired it back. An Aurelian warship fractured. Silence spread across both fleets. Human ships did not advance. They did not chase. They simply held position. Ready, capable, unyielding. On Aurelian Prime, the battlefeed streamed live into the Grand Hall. Gasps echoed as their invincible fleet faltered. Elindra stood slowly. Recall them, she ordered. But Your Majesty, Virex began. Now. Moments later, the surviving Aurelian ships retreated. Human forces did not pursue. They allowed them to leave. That unsettled her more than destruction would have. Hours later, a direct transmission arrived. Elias again. We did not seek war, he said calmly. But we will not fear it. Elindra studied him through the projection. You could have destroyed them, she said. Yes, Elias replied. Why didn't you? Because strength is not proven by domination. It's proven by restraint. The word struck deeper than any weapon. In all her centuries of rule, no one had ever spoken to her as an equal, and lived. The court waited for her to respond. For anger, for vengeance. Instead, the Princess Queen did something unexpected. She dismissed the chamber. Alone in the vast hall of golden pillars, she stared at the empty throne room. The human had walked away once. Now he had pushed back without kneeling. Humanity was not prey, not a rival. Something far more dangerous. A civilization that fought not for conquest, but for freedom. And for the first time, Alindra wondered if the galaxy was about to change, swarm. Drones erupted from hidden carriers, targeting weapon arrays and propulsion systems instead of hull cores. EMP bursts disrupted Aurelian coordination. Gravity mines distorted formation spacing. The massive Aurelian ships struggled to pivot. They had never needed agility before. Another blast struck. The Grand Hall of Aurelian Prime had never felt so uncertain. For centuries, the Empire's rule had been absolute. Entire star systems bent the knee before the crown. Resistance was crushed. Diplomacy was submission wrapped in ceremony. But now, a single human commander had shifted the balance of power. Princess Queen Alindra stood before the panoramic window overlooking her orbital fleets. The surviving ships from Lord Virex's unauthorized strike drifted back into formation, damaged and humbled. She had executed Virex at dawn, not for losing, but for acting without wisdom. Power without control was weakness, and she would not allow weakness to infect her empire. "Prepare my flagship," she ordered softly. The attendants froze. "Your Majesty." "You intend to go personally?" "Yes." If humanity wanted equality, she would look them in the eyes. Days later, the royal flagship Celestial. Dominion exited slipspace near Earth's defensive perimeter. Human warships immediately shifted into alert formation. No panic, no scrambling, disciplined. Alindra noted that carefully. A transmission request arrived from the human fleet. Commander Elias Ward appeared on her command deck's central projection. "You are inside restricted space," he said evenly. "And yet," Alindra replied, "you have not fired. Because you came with one ship." She allowed the faintest smile. "May I request a meeting?" Silence. "Then, in person." The meeting was arranged aboard a neutral orbital station above Mars. No royal guards beyond ceremonial distance. No weapons drawn. Just two leaders standing across from one another. Alindra wore no battle armor. Only her crown and formal regalia, deep sapphire silk threaded with starlight metal. Elias wore a simple black uniform. "No medals, no theatrics." "You surprised me," she began. "You attacked us," he replied calmly. "That was not my order." "And yet it happened." She didn't deny it. "You could have destroyed my fleet," she said. "Yes, you didn't." "No. Why?" Elias stepped closer to the viewport overlooking Mars's red horizon. "Because war would prove your point." She tilted her head slightly. "And what is my point? That power belongs to whoever can take it." He looked back at her. "We don't believe that." Silence stretched between them. Alindra had ruled for over 2 centuries. She had studied countless species. Most were driven by fear, greed, or survival instinct. Humans were different. "You are weaker than us in scale," she said. "Yes." "In numbers." "Yes." "In territory." "Yes." "Then why are you not afraid?" Elias didn't hesitate. "Because we've already survived worse than you." That answer unsettled her more than any weapon ever could. Hours passed in discussion, trade routes, territorial recognition, shared scientific development, defense pacts against external threats. It wasn't submission. It wasn't dominance. It was partnership. When the final agreement was drafted, Alindra placed her royal seal upon it, not because she had to, but because she chose to. As she prepared to depart, Elias spoke one final time. "You expected us to beg?" "Yes," she admitted. "And instead?" "You walked away." He gave a small nod. "That wasn't arrogance." "I know," she said quietly. "It was self-respect." Months passed. The galaxy watched in disbelief as the Aurelian Empire and humanity announced a sovereign alliance accord. Other species took notice. Some long-subjugated civilizations began requesting renegotiations. Reforms spread, not through war but through example. Within her private chamber, Alindra studied a hologram of Earth, blue oceans swirling beneath white clouds, a fragile world and yet unbreakable. Her chief advisor entered cautiously. "Your Majesty, some nobles believe this alliance makes us appear weaker." Alindra turned toward the stars beyond the glass. "No," she said softly. "It makes us wiser." Far away on Earth, Elias stood before the United Council. "You refuse the most powerful empire in the galaxy," one council member said. Weren't you afraid? Elias smiled faintly. Of course. Then why do it? Because if we had knelt once, we would kneel forever. Years later, historians would record that moment in the Grand Hall as the turning point of galactic civilization. Not the battle, not the treaty, but the moment a human said no and walked away. Princess Queen Elindra Valor would later write in her private journal, I expected him to beg. Instead, he showed me a different kind of strength. Not the strength to conquer, but the strength to stand. And in that strength, the galaxy found balance.